Hi, Beth.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Are you headed off for a long trip or a short trip?
I got kind of back and forth, but I'm gone the next actually couple of weeks.
Hmm, that's too bad. Although you're running away from some really lovely weather.
Yes, for sure. This is great today.
Yeah, I know, right?
Gosh.
I I feel like it's the first really good winter we've had for a couple years, but
Mm,
the rain on top of the snow is no fun. I don't like that, but like this weekend storm just keeps changing from being, 12 inches or 15 inches down to only 3 inches if it turns to rain. Like nobody seems to be able to figure it out. But we'll
We'll
see.
see.
We'll see. But all right, it's 7:01. So I'm calling this meeting of the Shutesbury Conservation Commission to order. It's 7:01 on February 13th. This meeting's being recorded. I see Mayor and Jan are here. I'm sure Bob's gonna pop up at some point. Um, but we might as well get going, I think. All right, comments from me. It's first thing on the agenda. I think I just sent around tonight some info on the MACC conference. So they have this big spring conference. I think Jan went to their smaller one that they do in the fall just last year. Is that right, Jan? Yeah. Yep. Um, so the spring one is bigger, and it's coming up on March 1st.
why is it
So anyway,
bigger?
I sent you guys the info, and feel free to sign up and read about it. Sign up if you have questions. Reach out to me. You can definitely get reimbursed from one of the Conservation Commission accounts for going. It's I went for many years when I was the conservation agent in Amherst. Um, and it's great. They got all the posters down in the basement. They also have the whole area where you can go look at all the all the equipment and stuff that people are trying to sell or just advertise. Then there's the uh, presentations, which are great, a variety of different kinds of presentations from a lot of people. But then there are sometimes classes being offered too. Some of the units, the MACC units, get offered. So anyway,
Can I
it's
ask a question?
yeah.
Should I attend, should I do some of the training before I do that? Would it, or, is that kind of over my head at this point? Or is it everything just adding to the picture?
I kind of think everything just adding to the picture. I haven't looked at the list of what's going on at the conference this year, but often they actually have some of the unit classes available at the conference. So
Oh, okay.
if you
Okay.
were going to go, I don't know if they're doing that this year or not, but
Yeah, I can speak to that. There are some really good classes. Honestly, Mayor, I think any of them would be helpful for you.
Okay.
And I can't believe that Beth left out the free lunch part of the show. Um,
right, free lunch.
and Also, interestingly enough, there's a meeting discussing the how to remove a dam, and it's in a town called, what's that called again? Oh yeah, Shutesbury, Massachusetts.
Shutesbury, right?
Yes. So I do plan to attend that, and there are a lot of
Great.
other different really cool programs as well.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
they actually, they asked if I wanted to be part of that panel, and I volunteered Erin Drop. So she'll be there. So that's nice. Yeah. So think about it and let me know if you have any questions about it. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know if you guys have heard anything, National Grid has a really large project. I think I have the name of it. Yeah, they're calling it the Central to Western Massachusetts Energy Improvement Project. It's along the transmission lines that go across Pratt Corner Road. Um, it's a very large project. It goes through multiple communities. Um, they will eventually be bringing a notice of intent to us, but it may take a year or even longer than that for that to come. But they recently filed an ENF with MEPA. So MEPA is the Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act is what that is. And large enough projects have to go through additional permitting, you know, with different agencies like the Army Corps. And so MEPA oversees certain projects that meet certain criteria, and it's typically the larger projects. So anyway, this project qualified for a MEPA application. They submitted an ENF, which is an environmental notification form, to MEPA, and that allows for public comment on that application. And Michael DiChiara kind of came forward and talked to the select board about it in terms of submitting comments from the town. And so Michael put some together. I read them and added my 2 cents really about, so MEPA kind of covers a variety of different environmental aspects, not just wetland stuff, but it has a wetland section to it. So that was kind of mine. But anyway, I can send the ENF around to people if they want to see it, or maybe just the comments that Michael put together. And he did submit those from the town to the MEPA program, comments on the project. I just wanted to let people know that that's going on. And like I said, they will eventually be filing something with us, but it might take a while. But it's a really large project. It's along that transmission line, and it involves replacing towers and taking down a lot of trees to kind of open up the right of way a little bit, stream crossings. It's typical. It's kind of like other work that we've seen along some of their transmission lines in this area over the last 10 years. But this one's, it's just big, and it happens to go right through Shutesbury. So I wanted to let you guys know about that. Oh, and so Mark Stinson isn't able to come tonight from the DEP to give us a little training. Just thought it would be good for him to, he's been offering. So, and I was thinking of having it be a night that's not one of our regular meetings, because we never seem to have enough time really for him to give a good training. So I think a couple of you guys responded about something next week. So Mayor, when you said you're available like all week, is that in the evenings?
You only said in the evening, so that's what, yes.
Yeah.
So
Great.
you only said in the evening, so anytime in the evening, just not, only Monday through Thursday, but yeah.
Yeah, Monday through Thursday. And Scott, you're gonna be away, right? Jan, what does your schedule look like for next week?
Yeah, that might be a problem for me.
Yeah, no Monday through Thursday of next week? Oh, that's too bad. Bob, how about you? Oh, I think you're muted.
Next week is fairly good. Thursday might be the exception, but I'd have to take a look at my calendar at work.
Okay. All right, well, let me check in with Mark. And see, he had actually thought maybe possibly of trying to do something that he might combine with some other towns too, like have a training session that would include commissioners from other towns too. All right, so let me check in with him about that. The only other thing I had listed, I wanted to mention, we did get that a forest cutting plan, which will be on our agenda for March 13th. That'll be on our next agenda. And just so Mayor knows, when we get these forest cutting plans, our role, the Conservation Commission's role, is to really just comment on them. We have no regulatory power over them, but when they are submitted with DCR, they are required to send us a copy and have us review it. And we have, I think, 30 days to comment on forest cutting plans. So
Beth, you only have 10 days.
10 days. Okay, we have 10 days to comment on a forest cutting plan. So we'll put that on our agenda
Where
for
is it?
March. Actually, I suppose I should look at it. I forwarded it to you guys. Yeah, let me take a look at that. I was thinking we could use it up, put it on the next agenda, but not if it's going to be too late to comment on it. Anyway, all right. Moving on to item 2 on our agenda is to review and comment on the minutes from January 30th. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes? Nope. Okay. All right, then I need a motion to approve the minutes of January 30th.
So move.
Second? Great. Con?
Aye.
Fox?
Aye.
Rowan?
Aye.
Douglas?
Hi.
And Wilson? Aye. Miriam, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I don't know when I could make a comment. I wanted to make a public comment about the ENF that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, you might go ahead right now.
Okay, thank you. I've been looking over this ENF with Janice Stone, who, for those of you who are sort of newer to the commission, is a wetland scientist who used to be on the Conservation Commission, and she's a conservation agent and owns property in Shutesbury and used to live in Shutesbury. And we're going to be making some comments, and what might not be so obvious to the commission is that with these ENFs, there's kind of some decision-making that gets baked into the process through the MIPA review, so that when notices of intent are submitted to the commissions later down the line, the project is in a much more finalized state. So a lot of decision-making has been made. And one of the decisions that gets made is what kind of mitigation would be provided by the applicant in exchange for the alterations of resource areas. And in Shutesbury, the area that these power lines crisscross is a highly sensitive environmental area. It's in the Amherst watershed, and it is mapped priority habitat for endangered species. And I calculated, I'm thinking 40% of the square acreage of what they're going to be altering is in a resource area. So it compared to other towns where these power lines are crossing, Shutesbury has a lot of wetland impact. And so our comments are to urge them to have a conversation and negotiation with the town of Shutesbury, with the Conservation Commission, in order to identify mitigation projects that are specific to Shutesbury and would benefit the wetlands of Shutesbury. Because sometimes what they do often is a bundled mitigation project. So they might acquire a conservation area property, 5 towns over, and that would be the mitigation for all the projects. But if we felt as a town that the impact needed to be more locally based in order to benefit wetlands in Shutesbury, there is negotiating room. And so that's one of the recommendations that we're making with the ENF, is that before the final environmental impact report is issued, that there be direct conversations with the town of Shutesbury about mitigation. What I also just wanted to remind the commission is, if you remember back in 2022, Eversource had a very similar project that there was an ENF for. And those power lines intersect these power lines in the same critical environmental area. So there is also the question about cumulative impact for 2 large energy projects that are going to involve many acres of alteration. And well, in energy projects like this are obviously necessary, and nobody wants to have an unreliable grid. In other areas, like in Connecticut, a very similar project was conditioned with a selective cut, so that rather than doing clear cuts within the power line, they were more selective around resource areas to remove only those trees that were going to be a threat to the infrastructure, and leaving vegetation in place in the resource areas. So there are alternative models.
You know,
Right.
that's all great. We all really appreciate you and Janice going through it. I guess my one question would be, I think Michael was also definitely asking for MIPA to work with Shutesbury, and I got the same feeling that it had to do with work with Shutesbury on talking about some mitigation here, like what you're talking about, some potential large mitigation. So I guess I'm wondering if you and Janice are submitting your own comments, how is it being coordinated with Michael's comments that are coming from the select board and from the town?
Well, they're separate, and we'll have comments that I would imagine the town is not providing.
Okay, no, I think it's great that as many comments as can be
I
made.
don't think the town would object to our making recommendations that the town be a stakeholder. So I don't think they're
No.
inconsistent. I'm sure that the comments that we're going to give are going to be a lot more detailed than probably what the select board was going to give, because we're going to be focusing on discussing and quantifying the impact to the resource areas, as well as looking at this larger kind of cumulative effect of multiple projects in the same area. I mean, there is even a question about whether these two projects should be viewed in relation to each other because they intersect in Shutesbury, and there's a requirement with MIPA that you can't segment projects. So I'm not really sure, but we might throw that in there.
Yeah, no, that's great. I was just wondering about sort of the coordination, if MIPA does reach out to the town to have some, bigger meetings and talk about some large mitigation and that kind of stuff. I'm sure they'll be taking in your comments, taking in the comments that the select board has put together too. So that's all
When
really good.
When the EENF was out for the Eversource project, I had a number of conversations with Becky Weissman, who was the project manager for SWICA for that project. And so as the chair of the Concom, I was talking with her about mitigation. And I believe that they are looking at possible mitigation projects that would benefit Shutesbury, but that's Eversource. So, one possibility, Beth, is even at this stage, nothing would bar you as the chair to reach out to that project manager for the National Grid, which is a different environmental firm. I forget who it is. It's a BSC, somebody else, and have that conversation just so you have a relationship with them. And because, as they're planning, they're going to be negotiating with Natural Heritage and DEP to come up with the mitigation requirements, and knowing that a particular wants to be involved, they'll take that into consideration.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I just also, I guess, want to remind everybody that whatever happens with some sort of MIPA mitigation, or just dealing with the MIPA permit, that's different than the notice of intent and the order of conditions. When they do come to us for the order of conditions, we have our own power. We can ask for our own mitigation. It's a different program. It's a different permit. Oftentimes MIPA is just looking at a much larger picture because, as I said, they take more environmental things into consideration than just wetlands. And so they can look for some large mitigation with towns due to that. But in the end, when they file their notice of intent, we have all the same powers, as any project, even if a project that hadn't gone to MIPA, we still can ask for our own kind of mitigation and stuff like that. But so, all right, well, All great. National Grid. All right, next on the agenda. Site visits update. Jan, has there been anything exciting?
The only site visit we had, Mayor and I went over to 375 Locks Pond where they want to cut down a couple of trees.
Mhm.
Didn't seem to be any issues other than the fact that there is an intermittent stream within 50 feet of both trees. They're concerned about the proximity to the buildings and safety. So there's that. And I think that depending on how they choose to cut the trees, whether they're going to have climbers or machinery, we can condition, so they can have erosion barriers if they're going to be doing, a lot of dirt disturbance.
I thought he
Okay.
said based on I thought he said based on the location of the trees that he had to have somebody climb it. No?
That might be true, Mayor. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. No other resource areas besides the intermittent stream? No BVW around?
The intermittent stream is
This is
more of a
out-
ditch. It's a drainage, kind of a narrow passage for water to run from the road
Mhm.
down to the other side of his property. So it's not exactly a flourishing brook.
All right, well, we're gonna talk more about that a little bit later. So, all right,
We had
Thank you
two
for
other
going.
scheduled site visits at the library, but the first one was on January 21st. And I can tell you that was an Arctic cold day after a snowstorm. I went out there, no one was around. You couldn't see anything, so there was no way to, make any observations. I did a drive by on February 4th again, same thing, and I communicated with the library director, and we'll start scheduling again when it looks like either they're doing something new or we've got some sort of thaw happening.
Yeah, so they've just been working on the structure, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they haven't
And
started
it
the
seems like
ditch
when
or-
I drive by, there's nobody there most of the time. But
I think they must have like dispensation for super cold or something. I don't know.
yeah, it's hard to get work done when it's that cold out, you know?
Yeah,
All right. Does the building even have any kind of a roof yet, or they're just like out in the open doing their work? So it's
it
cold.
still looks pretty open. Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty cold. All right, well, thank you. Item number 4, land management update, Scott? Got anything?
Yeah, not much to report. I think, and Mateo can confirm this, but I think we did submit 3 grant applications, 2 for Southbrook conservation areas, the ones that we talked about, I think with the full grant proposal as our preference, but we did submit the scaled back version as well, and then the top of the lake. So I guess we'll see. Thank you, Beth, for covering that on the 20th when I'm out of town. But I think that's all I had. I did touch base. I did reconnect with Eric from the Snowmobile Club there regarding Southbrook, and I think he was interested in maybe helping with some of that. Told him we submit the grant application, but if they want to submit a letter of support for that, that would be great. And I haven't seen that yet. Regardless, I do think we can likely count on some match volunteer labor that we hadn't accounted for in the grant, but I think the club's going to be interested in helping us, which is great.
That is great. They actually have enough snow this year to do some stuff.
Yeah.
First
We
time in
didn't
a few years.
talk. He just said that he wanted to take a look at it, and it looked. I know he's helped before, so I'm not committing him here. He didn't say for sure, but it sounds like they're interested in the project, so that's good.
That's great. That is great. All right. Item number 5, order of conditions for 58 Lake Drive. Let me bring that up. Mateo, can you allow me to share my screen?
Yep, I just turned it on.
Oh, thanks.
Might be under the more option.
All right. So 58 Lake Drive, if you guys remember, is the project where they're just squaring off an existing deck. Squaring it off and putting in some stairs. And I don't know if there's anybody here for this right now. Let me see. I'd have to stop sharing. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see Ward Smith or the Burns folks. Guess not, but they don't have to be here for this, but in case they wanted to make any changes to the order conditions. So these are the special conditions for the order conditions. We've got findings of facts, just talking about the project. 117 square foot addition with a stairwell, 11 holes for concrete piers. Soil is going to be removed from the site. They're going to install erosion control between the work area and the bank of the lake. Closest point is 50 feet for the work. 20 square feet of permanent impact from the digging of the installation of the piers. Yeah, no vegetation being removed. It's not in natural heritage. And then we refer to the plan set. And very standard conditions. I don't think there's anything special about this project. So there are standard conditions. Highlighting that they need to send us a letter within 30 days. That they've read our order of conditions, 30 days to record it at the Franklin County Registry of Deeds. Erosion control needs to be inspected. Yep, standard, nothing special. And then a post-construction visit, application of a certificate of compliance. That's it. Did I fly through that too quickly?
Just, I apologize, Beth. The very
Okay.
last condition was talking about erosion controls.
Yes. Remain in place until all exposed soils have been stabilized. And Concom's authorized their removal.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's go back to the top. All right, does anybody have any comments while I'm still sharing it?
Just one thing that came up during the site visit, we just wanted to be assured that there wouldn't be any effect of the water line or the vegetation there, and it sounds like it's well covered in the order.
Good. All right. Okay, so I need a motion to issue the order of conditions for 58 Lake Drive.
Motion to order the conditions.
Nice. Second?
I'll second.
All right. Fox,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Rowan? Oops, you're muted, Jan.
I abstain. I'm a direct abutter.
Ah, good. Douglas
Aye.
and Wilson, aye. All right, great. All right, item 6 is I talked with Donna McNichol about reviewing the conservation restriction for Mark Whiteman. And she asked Mark if that would be all right with him, and he said yes. And so let's see, she sent me kind of what. So we need to vote to sort of approve that Donna is gonna review the conservation restriction for us. Bear with me, this is what she sent for the motion. It says, move to approve town council Donna McNichol to represent the Conservation Commission on the review of a conservation restriction for the property owned by Mark Whiteman on Leverett Road, lot H 151, Shutesbury, Mass. Even though Mr. Whiteman was a former client of the town council approximately 10 years ago concerning property not located in Shutesbury. So there was a little bit of concern for Donna, at least, that she'd represented him before. So that's the motion for us to vote on. And if anybody has any concerns, bring them up now, comments or concerns.
Can I ask just, it seems a little odd to be the way that was worded, because it insinuates some like a potential conflict of interest, but I mean, attorneys work for different clients. I don't see that here, but having that in that language that way and having us vote on it just is confusing to me. Did she have concerns about a conflict of interest, or why did she write it that way, or do you know?
Yeah, I sent it to her and said, you know, we'd like you as town council to take a look at this. It's a legal document, you know, for the Conservation Commission. And she responded by saying she had worked with Mark previously, and so she wanted to make sure it was all right, sort of with him. And then, yeah, I guess she felt like she wanted probably us to know that she'd worked with Mark before and wanted us to be okay with it. You know, that
Okay.
she's reviewing something that he's trying to get us to, you know, kind of go along with and approve, and all the different sections of the CR. And so maybe she's thinking she wants us to be okay with the fact that she knows Mark and, you know, has worked with him before and isn't, because we could look at it as a commission as, is she giving him favor, you know, because she knows him and has worked with him before, and he's been her client. So this vote is basically saying that we're aware of it and it's not an issue, and we're fine with her reviewing it for the commission.
And she didn't work with him on this property in particular,
Nope,
right?
I think that quote said whatever she worked on was not even in Shutesbury.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I don't have any concerns.
Okay. Okay, so that's does somebody want to make that motion that I read?
And as you read it.
Great. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Rowan,
And I appreciate her full disclosure.
me too. Douglas,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson. Great. So that will be on our agenda for March 13th. So I've sent it around to you guys before, but I can certainly send it around again, conservation restriction, because I'm hoping by March 13th, I'm pretty sure Donna will have her comments ready because she's been kind of prepared to review it. And then any more comments we have, and then maybe we can finally make a decision on that for Mark, because he's been kind of working on it for a while.
If there's a way to get, I really appreciate Donna's willingness to look at it. If there's a way to get her comments ahead of that meeting so we can
Mhm.
read them, that will help me.
Yeah, okay.
Beth, does it
I'll ask
go
her.
from us to the Attorney General for their approval?
Yeah, I think it does. Well, I think it has to be signed by a lot of people first, like the select board has to sign the
Okay.
actual document. I think it's our signature, it gets the select board signature. I think it even gets the town administrator. There's sort of a whole lot of legal signing of the document before it goes back to DEP for their review and signature. And then does it Attorney General too? I think it's DEP that signs it.
Yeah.
There's a page for DEP to sign, and they only sign once everybody else has signed.
Great. Goes to the state probably would have been a better way to put it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it goes to the state. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and Donna certainly can help us with that whole sort of process too, getting it to the select board and getting everything signed. Notarized and whatnot. All right. What time is it? Let's just do the certificate of compliance or certificate of completion for 31 Lakeview, because I think, yeah, I see Kathy's here. We'll do that, and then the AAR. Hi, Kathy.
How you doing?
Good. So I'm gonna, so let's talk about this. This is a certificate of compliance for order of conditions for 31 Lakeview Road. Trying to remember which commissioners were around for that project. House construction, it involved it that, so the property is right on the Sawmill River, and so there's riverfront, and there's a BVW that then has buffer zone, and yeah, I think most people are familiar with it, except maybe not Mayor.
I know where it is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
good.
no, I passed it, but I won't, I'm not, I wasn't on it, so I wouldn't be voting on it, so.
Okay, Bob, do you know the project?
I do. We had reviewed it once before, while I've been on the board.
Right, we amended the order of conditions pretty recently. So anyway, Jan and I did a site visit now a little bit ago. I think that was in December-ish, to make sure everything in the order of conditions, the construction was completed in accordance with the order of conditions. So we did the site visit, and everything's in order. I think a lot of that information was kind of brought to us during the amendment time. We talked a lot about the rock wall that was put in along the no disturb zone, and we talked about putting up a sign that actually indicates that it's a resource area, that's a protected area, and the Salvador's installed the sign, and Jan and I saw it when we were out there. It's up, it looks fine, and so yeah, so I think we've kind of talked about this before, and the site visit went well. I felt like everything was in place. It was supposed to be in place. How about you, Jan? Did you think it looked
Yeah, they ticked all the boxes. The last thing on the list was that sign, and yes, indeed, we can confirm it has been
Mhm.
installed.
Yeah, so I can bring up the certificate of compliance. All right, so here's the DEP form. Can everybody see my screen? Yeah, okay. All right, so. Oh, and the Salvador submitted a Form 8A and paid their fee. 8A is the request for a certificate of compliance. So they did that. We've got the order conditions information. We've got the recording information for both the original order and the amended order. We did a site visit on 12/12. And we are issuing a complete certificate of compliance. That's all that form is. No ongoing conditions that I can think of.
Beth, wouldn't you have the maintenance of that stone wall as an ongoing condition? Or they remain in place?
We could include, maintenance of the no disturb boundary. Because in addition to the stone wall, there are some, after the rock wall ends, there are actually some posts too that kind of continue the no disturb zone marking.
Right, and the sign that you mentioned, I think that would be appropriate to have that ongoing.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's good too. Um, yeah, I think that's this with the amended order, there was a deed attached to that amended order, which talked about the no disturb zone and that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of ongoing already. But maintenance of the no disturb boundary is good. All right, I can't think of anything else because I think a lot of it was covered in that amended order. Anybody have anything else they want to add? No. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. All right, Kathy, you have anything you want to add?
Thank you. That's all I want to add.
Okay, looking for a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 31 Lakeview Road.
I'd like to make the order that we approve that.
Okay, second,
We approve that.
second,
I second.
okay. Douglas,
Hi,
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
I abstain.
Khan,
Hi.
and Wilson, aye. All right. So we'll get that to you Kathy, next week, and it needs to be recorded.
Okay, thanks again.
Sure. I think you're up with what's next on our agenda too.
Yep, we'll hang around.
Yep. So we've got an administrative approval request for 31 Lakeview Road. So Kathy, if you want to share that, that'd be great.
Sure. We've just got a couple of trees that are along the road that are dead. And we'd like permission to take them down. We've had an arborist look at them to make sure what we were looking at was actually two trees that were on their way out. And they agreed that that was the situation. You have seen them, I believe. And I forget who was with you, Jan, I think. And so we're just looking for permission to remove those two dead trees.
Okay, I think I sent around to everybody a map that Kathy had made showing where the trees are, and then just their application. So I don't know, we could bring up the map if folks want, or are folks feeling pretty comfortable about issuing. So this would be an administrative approval. So yeah, we can bring it up, or we can just vote on it. Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, and I don't know the history of decisions in the past, but if trees come down, does the board require the replacement of, say, placing shrubs or anything like that as a as a condition or an exchange or mitigation?
That's actually the section that we're going to go through with the regulations tonight, is the vegetation replacement section. Now, this entire property is buffer zone. Pretty sure. Maybe we should bring up the map, but I would have to find it. Mateo, you don't happen to have the map for the request for administrative approval for this property?
I might be able to find it. Let me take a look.
I would have it. I'd have to dig around.
And I'm all for Kathy taking down the dead trees, just to be clear on that.
Yeah. All right, so it's a little challenging. What I'm looking for is the buffer zone lines for example, that wetland that's over there. I don't know if they're on here or not.
Is it in the 200-foot riverfront resource area?
Pretty sure. I think really the whole site is within riverfront. Those trees may be on that, are in the outer 100, and may also be either outside the buffer zone for the wetlands. Hard to tell. Yeah, I think they might be outside the buffer zone. So in terms of replacement trees, our regulations that we're going to be looking at, yeah, I don't see the buffer zone lines. If you're in the outer 50 feet of the aura, so the aura would be the 100-foot from the wetland. it's different than if you're in the inner 50 in terms of what we require in our regulations. Let's see if I can find that. The outer 50 feet of the aura is a 1-to-1 kind of tree replacement. And then it's different if you're in the aura in the inner 50. And then I wonder about riverfront. Well, I think we're definitely in the kind of world of the outer 50. So we are certainly could ask for sort of a 1-to-1 tree replacement. Kathy, were you planning on replanting?
Yes, probably not right where those two trees are, but in that general area. We're gonna
Okay.
leave the stumps of those two trees will remain. So somewhere in that area, we'll put trees in.
And just how many trees and a similar species to what was there?
Yeah, we could duplicate what's there, two additional trees.
Okay. All right, well, great. That answers that question. All right, Mateo, can you stop sharing? Thanks for finding the map. All right, does anybody else have any other comments or concerns with this request? Nope. All right, any comments from the public? Nope. All right, so we need a motion to issue an administrative approval for tree removal at 31 Lakeview Road.
So moved.
I'll second.
Second? Great. Fox,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Douglas,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. All right, great. Thanks, Kathy. We'll get that to you next week also.
Okay, perfect. We'll look for it. Thank you guys very much.
All right,
Appreciate
have a
your
good
help.
night.
You too.
Okay. We are just cruising through the agenda. This is so great. 7:45, we're definitely past that. Administrative approval request for 375 Locks Pond Road. Is there somebody here to talk about that?
Yep, actually Dave and I are both here, but the
Great.
same thing as Kathy, we have two large trees on our property, fairly close to our garage. And I think Mary and Jan came out to look at it. And with the storms, we've had quite a few branches come down, large branches. So we really like to take both trees down.
Okay, and was there a map provided
Yes,
with this application?
yes.
Okay, Mateo, do you happen to have that map available?
I do, yeah.
Oh, you're so helpful.
Oop.
All right. Whoa. There we go. All right, so this site, I didn't go on this site visit, so I'm just curious, I guess, what types of trees they are and how tall they are. And
Dave could probably answer this better than me.
One's a pine tree, it's probably 90 to 100 feet, and the other's a maple.
Okay, and did you say you had an arborist look at them, or,
Yes,
Yep,
and then they're on their way out?
yes.
yes.
Okay, and do you plan to replant?
If we have to, yeah.
All right. And there's the I see the intermittent stream. I know the property. I think you guys came before the commission a while ago to put in a driveway and a retaining wall.
Yep. In fact, that tree, one of the trees is right in front of the new garage. It's actually the back of the garage. There's a porch there. So,
How close is the tree on the right-hand side of this map here to the intermittent stream?
8 feet.
Okay, that's a little concerning, just, so how are they planning to, how are you getting the trees taken down, by hand?
I do concrete work. That, I don't know how the tree guys would do it.
they did come and look at it though, but
I don't know if they would do it. They have all these special machines that grab onto the tree and bucket trucks. If they have to climb it, I'm sure they'll climb it.
Yeah, the reason that I'm just concerned, that's awfully close to the stream, so if say they were actually gonna use larger equipment,
Well,
it could actually impact the stream, or also we would want to sort of require some erosion control and that kind of thing between the stream and where they're gonna be sort of disturbing the ground surface with the larger equipment.
right. I mean, they're not gonna be able to put trucks close to that property anyways, but
that same stream a week ago, the power company cut over the top of them, over the top of that stream, and piled all the brush in the stream. And I've got pictures of it.
Oh, what, were they clearing trees on, Locks Pond or
Pond
on Lake
Road,
Drive?
yeah.
Ugh, I'll write that down. I know they've been going down all the roads and clearing a lot of trees.
I mean, we can put a buffer around that. I mean, they're not gonna be able to bring big trucks where that is, where it's located anyways, that, the one on the right.
I plan on tarping the stream, so-called stream. It's a runoff from the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if we don't really kind of know what type of equipment, I guess at this point they're gonna use, and I think we may want to have some kind of erosion control between where they're gonna be working and the edge of that stream. So I think we'll require that.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Yeah,
Okay. And then under our new regulations, we are requiring replanting of trees.
okay. Okay,
So it would be a 1-for-1 kind of thing. So 2 trees in the general area that these were and of a similar species.
okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions? All right, Mateo, can you stop sharing? Thank you. Okay, we covered a few things there, and all of those things they'll be included in the administrative order. Are there any comments from the public? No. All right. Looking for a motion to approve an administrative approval or order, whatever you want to call it, for 375 Locks Pond Road.
I motion to
move.
approve the order.
All right, second.
Second.
Okay, Douglas,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I will get that to you next week, and then it'll include the things that we just talked about.
Okay, thanks, Beth. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Time is it? 8 o'clock. Nice. On to our regulations.
Thanks, good
I just
question.
wanted before, oh, what'd you say, Mayor?
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
I'm not that technically literate, but you had sent me the draft of the regulations, and so I downloaded that onto my computer, and then I made some, comments, and I saw that Scott had comments on there from the beginning of January. So do you get those comments back, like, or do I have to resend it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you have to resend it.
Okay.
What had happened was we had talked about having it as a Google shared document, and we had it that way for probably between 2 meetings, like between one meeting. And so everybody had access to it for a very short amount of time and made some comments. That's where Scott's comments
Okay.
came
Okay.
from. And then
Yeah.
it was sort of discussed at our meeting that really is not in accordance with the open meeting law. So I unshared it. So
Okay.
now nobody sees anybody's comments. I don't see yours, and nobody sees anybody's. And so now basically, if you guys have comments, you have to just email them to me.
I didn't think it went back to you automatically. Like it was like a like a Google Doc, but I was like, wait, this doesn't look like a Google. Anyways, I digress. But okay, I did make a couple comments along the way, but I also wasn't exactly clear one of the things that you said about the NOI to like which there were different sections that I wasn't clear which one that pertained to. But I think I reviewed them, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna.
All right. Well, if when you're looking at it, you have any
Yeah.
questions, feel
Okay.
free to ask questions. Also, feel free to send me comments on, and if it was still shared, I would have seen your comments, but it's not a shared document anymore. So now you just have to kind of make the comments and then just physically send me the document. Or you can just type out your comments if you want with the different sections, however you want to do it. And send them to me, and send them to me individually. You can't send them to everybody. That's
Right.
also open meeting law kind of stuff. So before I open it, I just wanted to get agreement. We're on Riverfront. Is that where we are? Are we up to Riverfront?
Wherever.
I think we got through the streams and we were going to start it, unless we already got through Riverfront. That's the thing I couldn't remember. We can go through it again. I think we haven't gone through it yet. I think that's where we're at.
I think we ended on intermittent
Okay.
last time.
Yes, that's where I think we are too.
That's correct. I was about to say. Yep.
Nice. Okay, Riverfront, here we go. Okay,
Can you enlarge that, Beth, by any chance?
yep. I think. How do we do that? Oh, here we go. How's that? Is that good? I can go bigger.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind for us old people, that'd be great.
How's that?
One more?
200%? Whoa,
Yeah, now we're talking.
now we're talking. So funny, I have to like move the pictures of everybody around so that I can see it all because it's too, now it's whatever, okay. Riverfront area. Oops, oh my goodness. All right, are you guys seeing what I'm seeing in the, all of the language is kind of getting cut off on the right-hand side?
It's getting cut off on the right side. Can you enlarge the box or if need be, shrink it down? That's fine.
I don't know how to enlarge the box.
Can you just scroll across to the right on the bottom there?
Yeah, we can do it that way. We'll just have to keep going back and forth a little bit.
There you go.
There we go.
All right, and I gotta move your pictures again, all your little faces. Where am I gonna put you guys? I'm hiding you. Okay. Riverfront preamble. I had no comments on this. The beginning, the preamble. Oops. Anybody have anything? So nothing about Riverfront, sure. This is just a preamble telling us why Riverfront is so wonderful. Definitions. Riverfront area is the area of land between a river or perennial streams, mean annual high water line, and a parallel line located 200 feet away. A riverfront may include or overlap other resource areas, including the aura. But riverfront doesn't have its own aura. Yep. That's all in agreement with the Wetlands Protection Act. And here's kind of, I guess, a little bit how you delineate mean high water and also just a description of it. Visible markings, changes in character of soils or vegetation. Yep. Going the wrong way. Yep. Oop. It's all good. Here's something that's in the Wetlands Protection Act. If a river runs through a culvert that's more than 200 feet in length, the riverfront area stops at a perpendicular line at the upstream end of the culvert and resumes at the downstream end. Yeah, all good. I don't have any comments. Anybody have any comments? Let me know.
That's
Where is there a riverfront in Shutesbury? Just to, so I can have some sort of reference.
Like along the Sawmill River.
Okay, like where the Salvadors have their,
Yep.
that's considered a river. Okay.
Yep, that's considered a river.
Okay.
Where else? I mean, there's definitely,
Swift,
definitely-
all the Swift River,
yeah.
all the way down like the S curves.
Oh, right. Okay, that's
Um,
okay. Even though it's kind of not running, and a lot of times during the year it's not really running at all, or
Which, are you talking about the sawmill?
no, this along the S curves.
I'm not sure I've ever noticed a time when that hasn't been running. Even during really dry times, there's usually something in that
Okay.
stream. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
I don't know if this is helpful. This is Miriam, but perennial streams are defined by the size of their watershed. And under the state regulations, if the mapped watershed is over a certain threshold, it's a perennial stream. And so there's a number of streams in Shutesbury that meet those criteria under the state law. And in drought periods, you can't undeclare a stream. It's perennial characteristics. So there could be periods during drought where a perennial stream may look pretty dry, but the state doesn't let you unperennialize it.
yeah, when we talked about this at the last meeting, and the section above that's rivers and streams. It got into the whole kind of definition of rivers versus intermittent streams.
Right.
So that's where that comes from. You know, if something is legally defined as a river, then it has a riverfront.
Okay.
All right, so presumptions. This was all fine. And then this section, that's what is this one?
Why was
Yeah.
why was it struck, Beth?
Yeah, so that's saying that riverfront starts with the outermost boundary of BVW versus always starting at mean high water, which I think is just, in my mind, I was thinking that it's always mean high water. You can have BVW in riverfront, and the BVW has its own aura. And in some cases, you're going to have a large enough BVW that the aura could actually extend outside of riverfront, and the aura would still be protected. But it's my understanding that riverfront always starts at mean high water because it's associated with the river, not with the BVW. I think that was my thinking when I struck this. Yeah.
I could follow your logic on that.
Yeah, and that's the way I understand it. So that's why I took that out. All right, performance standards. I didn't really have any changes.
I had
Oh yeah.
8.41. I was just making, and I think I had this later on, but the part that was talking about the last part of 8.41, except upon a clear showing by a preponderance of credible evidence that any proposed work and its natural and consequential cumulative impacts and effects shall have no adverse effect upon any of the bylaw values. And I just I was just thinking about like what that would be, and it seems like that would be kind of hard to do. It's certainly not a very clear standard in a reg for someone to comply with. And so I was just raising that concern. I could see us struggling with that, or people coming and trying to demonstrate what, you know, that would actually look like.
Yeah, I see you're questioning I feel like that language though is repeated a few times
It
in,
is.
you know, in these regulations, and it's, you know, in layman's terms, it's basically for any of these resource areas, we're kind of saying, you know, no work is allowed unless you can show to us um, that you're not going to affect the values of the resource area under the Protection Act and the bylaw. And that's almost sort of, it's funny language, but it really just is almost for anybody that's coming before us who are doing anything, like even, you know, taking down trees in the aura. Well, straight up, we could say, you know, no work allowed in the aura unless you can prove. And so then they come forward and they say, well, we're going to take the tree down, but we're going to do it in a way that is, you know, we're going to leave the
Right.
stumps, and we're going to, you know, it's kind of it's sort of we say it all the time, and it's, I don't know how else to describe it.
No, I get that. I was just saying, I think, you know, it is a bit subjective, and it might, I guess but my question was, you know, if that is actually in the Wetland Protection Act itself, that language, and if it is, then I'm just wondering if we need to repeat it
Could I make a
here. But
Yeah, go ahead, Miriam.
Yeah, so I believe that this language is in 310 CMR 10.00 in the riverfront area performance standards. And then just as an FYI for the commission, the language in these performance standards tracks pretty closely with the state regs. And of course, you know, the idea here is that yes, there's some duplication, but because you want to be able to apply the bylaw as well as the Wetlands Protection Act, you've got to, you know, define what your regulations are for how you're going to regulate riverfront area under the bylaw. So, but I'm pretty sure that language is basically saying a riverfront area is treated like a resource area where no alteration is allowed unless there's a showing of that it's not going to have an adverse effect on the values. And that's pretty much what I think the regs say under 10.8.
Yeah, it's the same language that the regs use with the different resource areas, and I'm sure it's in there for riverfront.
okay, well, I think I'll raise the same issue here in like 2 more sections. We can talk about it there.
Just keep fighting it. Just keep fighting it. It's confusing language, no doubt. Okay. So then those other performance standards seem fine.
I think it's this one about the
Alternatives analysis.
yeah. And I think I raised the same question here. I don't know if this is also in tracks. It seems like it might have been an ad. But again, I'm wondering, you know, here we're talking about proposed mitigation along that will have no significant or cumulative adverse effect on the values. And I think my comment was I'm just wondering if there's an easier way to define some minimum or possible mitigation or what that would be. But it just, you know, for regs, it just leaves it pretty far open for interpretation by the commission. And that's what we're going for. I think this would do that. it just doesn't really pin down exactly what it is that an applicant would need to meet or how the commission would weigh that. And maybe different commissions would weigh it differently depending on who's on the commission and how they interpret, you know, different projects and what they require.
Yeah. Let's see, unless there we have. And the project. It's interesting to me. Oop, there's an echo. That number 2 is included here because this is more about the alternatives analysis. Let's just go down and see what it says.
Beth, could I make a comment?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so this was included because it's in the riverfront area regs under state law. So we didn't want to put in regulations that are weaker than what the commission already has to consider for riverfront areas. So the alternatives analysis is required under the riverfront area state regs, as well as these definitions of what that alternatives analysis needs to consider. So trying to mirror the state regs.
Yeah, so I guess I yeah, and I get that, and I know we definitely want to have the alternatives analysis in here, and that's I was going to go down and see it. This is all talking about the alternatives analysis. So I'm just wondering about this number 2. Unless a redevelopment project under the applicant must show that there is no practical alternative, and the project, including proposed mitigation measures, will have no significant or cumulative adverse effect on the value. So it's almost just repeating what we said above a little bit with that number 2. So I don't know if we need that. And then then the rest of this just really it talks about what an alternatives analysis should be. And that's all, as Miriam said, it's in the state regs. So I guess I kind of question that number 2 part of the whole thing.
Is there any, let me add, since Miriam's on it, well, I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't mean to jump in front of you.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, if I had a preference, it would be to leave the language there. It is in the act, but it also, I think, is a good guidance for, you know, somebody who's reading through our regulations that this is what we're looking for, is that we're we're looking for projects that are well balanced and can go ahead as long as they can show that they have no significant or cumulative effect on the resource areas. So I think it's to our advantage to keep it in. I don't think I think it strengthens our bylaw.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask, is there anything here that's new in the bylaw, or is our bylaw in the section just regurgitating the state language?
A lot of it is regurgitating the state. Yes, like the state has this whole same section on alternatives analysis in it. And it probably has that number 2 also in it. I just looking at that, or just trying to figure out how that kind of ties in with the discussion about an alternatives analysis.
Yeah, can I respond to that?
Sure.
So just as a way of understanding it, in state regs, the riverfront area regulations are the newest regulations. They've been they were added after, considerably later than much of the other regulations, and for that reason they're much stronger than many of the other regulations, like the aura, the buffer zone is not a resource area under the state regs, but riverfront area is a resource area. So the regs are pretty strong and there's not much room for improvement on them. And we don't want to, we didn't want to change these regulations so that they would be inconsistent with the state. That would be very confusing. But because the new bylaw does protect riverfront area, we thought having these regulations would be important so that decisions could be rendered both under the state law and under the bylaw for riverfront area. And the analysis for an alternatives and adverse effect is this analysis that the commission has at its discretion already under state law for this particular resource area. So 8.4 2.3 says that unless it's a development project, which has different requirements, the applicant must show that they've gone through an alternatives analysis, which means that they show that there's no practicable economic alternative. And so that's a little different than the presumption that you were talking about up above, because the presumption up above on 8.3.1 doesn't require an alternatives analysis, doesn't discuss an alternatives analysis. It's here in the performance regs. And that's the way it's written in the state regs as well. It's a performance standard, this alternatives analysis. And, the commission uses its discretion to decide, what it considers to be sufficient evidence.
I'm wondering, and maybe this is a better question for Donna, but I do know when we were looking at the regs before, it certainly makes sense to me that we would, that we wouldn't have our regulations less restrictive than that of the State Wetland Protection Act, because we can't change or loose or make more lenient state law. We can make it more restrictive. And if we're regurgitating what's already there, I would think there's an easier way of doing this, to just assimilate the State Wetland Protection Act in our bylaw, and that way, as the act is updated, we're assimilated with that. I think listing it piece by piece like this too, there would be the chance for that inconsistency as the state law changes and is updated. But maybe that's a better question for Donna. I do remember when we had legal counsel look at this before, I thought that was their recommendation, was to just to reference the state law, but not to go through and repeat each and every single part of it. So maybe we could, when it goes back to Donna, I'd be curious in asking the question.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I actually think it's a little bit, what I've heard in the past is it's kind of the opposite of that. Like if all you did in here was reference sections of the state law, that's when you could run into trouble, because you're referencing a section that then could be changed to say things that you don't want. Like what's in here right now is our regulations. It's what the town is going to regulate. If the state law changes and updates, the state law changes, but this is still ours. There's like no direct connection because we're using the actual words. Whereas once you start referencing another document with numbers and sections and stuff like that, that's often when you can get in trouble with when they update things and change sections. And that's at least what I've heard in the past. But
yeah, it would be good to, usually as the state law changes, it becomes more restrictive, typically. So we could have a situation, just to what Mary had laid out, with the state law changes becomes more restrictive, and our bylaw language is now antiquated and more lenient than what the state law has said, which is exactly what we said we didn't want to do.
Yeah, no, that can happen too. That can definitely happen.
I mean, if our intent is to protect, if our intent here is to do something different than what is already a requirement of the state under the bylaw, it would make sense to me, we would enumerate it, but I won't. Maybe we'll put a pin in that and come back to that.
Yeah, I think in the section above, there was a reference to maybe like a NOAA document or something. And we just added the words as amended. So that, you know, we are referring to something, but if it gets amended, you know, then we're still referring to it, I guess would be my concern. Like if with this kind of thing, you just started referencing sections of the Rivers Act for this, and then all of a sudden the Rivers Act changed, the numbers all changed, like everything changed, and all of a sudden you're referencing it and it's not right anymore. That can be a problem, but you can add language in, like, you know, as amended to do that. But something big to think about. Those are big comments, Scott, big comments.
Beth, could I just add one more comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you raised some good points on all fronts, and I think that there's always a balancing act between having this be a document that stands on its own and is not referencing other documents, and how much it's consistent with state regs. And you certainly don't want it to be in conflict with state regs. You don't want it to, you know, require something that's inconsistent with what the state regs require, in the sense that they can't both be satisfied. But the regs don't change very often at the state level. I think that, you know, these regs are probably, what, 25 years old. And I think the commission would have plenty of time to foresee that. There's probably gonna be a year run up before they would make any regulatory changes. I think the current regulatory changes have been under consideration for 5 years. So
Yeah.
there's lots of time for discussion and updating before, you know, it becomes a problem. I think if everything referenced the state regs, then the question would be, why even have these regs and why even have the bylaw? If everything about the bylaw is referencing, I mean, I remember, you know, one of the comments, I think, from some of the legal reviews was that the regs shouldn't even discuss the Wetlands Protection Act too much, because it might lead a court to decide that this is just really a rewriting of the state regs or a reframing of the state regs and isn't really its own independent set of standards. So that it's a balancing act. And I think, you know, some of the things are incorporated by reference just for the sake of, you know, brevity, but sometimes you need to kind of also spell things out.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I you know, started with the wetland stuff in 2011, and this round of, like you said, it's this round of state reg updates, which is taking a long time, is only the second one since 2011. They did issue some revised big changes in, I think it was 2014. And now this, so they don't do it very often. All right. Moving on. This was all fine.
I had a question on 2.5.
Yep.
And I just, I wasn't sure if I was reading that right, and I'm wondering what how the other commissioners interpret that. But are we asking for like a mandatory CR for that, or is that? I wasn't sure. It makes it sound like we're requiring the applicant to maintain the strip of continuous. I'm not sure if it's just during the project, or is it ad infinitum, or what we're doing with that.
Well,
again,
Beth, I put it this in, and I guess I could just respond that I think this is in the state regs, that the discretion, at the discretion of the commission, they can require this.
And what is it, Miriam? Is it a CR, or is it?
I don't, Scott, that's above my pay grade. I mean, that's a whole legal question about it. Maybe it's just at the time that it's permitted. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have a question. I don't think that's clear and, but it is in the state regs. I understand that there's been discussion and some controversy. I can't weigh in on that, but I would say that if you read 310 CMR 10.00, you will find almost this language. So I don't know. It's a great mystery.
Yeah, it almost comes across as another one of these sort of like, you're not allowed to do anything in a resource area unless you can prove with, credible evidence, that you won't, diminish the values of the resource area, which is similar to the language we were looking at before, where it's sort of like, okay, and then the applicant comes forward and says how they can still do their project without affecting the values. But I'll look and see if this is in the regs, because I can't remember. I don't have.
Does the State Wetland Protection Act, is it a resource area 200 feet from riverfront, or I know that's in our bylaw?
Yes.
Yeah, no, riverfront is a resource area under
For
the
200.
rivers.
Because I thought in our bylaw that was one thing that we had changed, or an update, is 200 feet to reflect that, but that's where the state law is as well as 200 feet.
That's right.
Yep, the Rivers Act is, as Miriam was saying, the Rivers Act actually came a little bit later after the Wetlands Protection Act, but it's really become part of the Wetlands Protection Act, and riverfront is a resource area, 200 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll look this one up because it is a little goofy. I'll see if that's in the regs. Write that down. Okay. And then there's the reference to natural heritage. Oops. And then this last one refers to redevelopment, and it refers to the redevelopment sections that are in the Rivers Protection Act. And that's a whole another bag of worm, but we just thought we're following what's in the state regs there. So there you go, Scott. There's a reference that just takes you right to the regs. Instead of us summarizing.
Anytime we don't have to repeat unclear state language again, I'm all for that.
Okay. Good. All right. Vegetation removal. Here we go.
I think I had overall.
You had a comment there.
And that was that I think we need to add something in there about an exemption for invasives for both trees and shrubs, or I would recommend that.
An exemption
for so vegetation removal wouldn't include, like, if you're going to remove invasive species, to me this seems like something we would be concerned about for native species in resource areas. But if you're removing invasive species, it doesn't seem like it would apply in the same way.
I guess I agree in that maybe as we're going down through, we can add some language about invasive stuff. My only thought on that is that a couple things. One is that there are trees that are not, well, I mean, they're not considered invasive, but they're not native either. But say somebody went in to remove a whole bunch of knotweed or something, I would think we would still, I don't know, want to know about it.
We could talk about it. I mean, but you do raise a point, and that's another question is like, we talk a lot about native tree removal. And so as you point out, I think there are a lot of trees that are not native.
Yeah.
That you would find. They're not invasive either. So there you go. That's my other big comment.
Yeah. Well, let's see, where do we talk about just vegetation removal that isn't necessarily trees? Or is it mostly just trees? So here's why they're significant. They are significant. I think you added that the commission strongly encourages retaining native trees and vegetation in their natural state. Yeah, again, I don't know if we want to call out just native, again, because there are trees, especially if we're just talking about trees, there are trees that we're just saying that are they're not native, but I think we would still want people to maybe not cut them down, and we'd actually want them replaced. And when we ask them to be replaced, we could ask them to be replaced with native species. But like at least in Amherst, there's the catalpa tree, which is that tree with the really long seed pods. They're all over Amherst because somebody planted them at some point, but they're beautiful, large, giant trees. They're not native.
Yep.
And
Well,
so,
yeah, I mean, for trees, maybe I could see the point. I think it's like 8.35 and 8.36. But like I'll take 8.35, top of the lake. We're looking to get rid of the glossy buckthorn there. It's in a resource area. It's certainly, I don't think it's enhancing the values of the bylaw. I'm trying to think about a place where we would have like invasive species that would be advancing the values of the bylaw.
mhm.
And
Did you say 835 you were looking at, or?
835 would be an example where it's not trees,
Okay.
but
Yeah, so before we get there, how do people feel? Like so far, I'm fine with it. That sticking the native in that Scott did, I'm not so sure about. We might want to change that, but just these numbers that have been proposed, I'm fine with them. If you're in the outer 50 of the aura, it's a 1-to-1 tree replacement. Oh, okay, any part of riverfront. That's what I was looking for earlier. Okay. The outer foot of aura or any part of riverfront. You can either do one for one for tree or 4 shrubs for 1 tree. If you get within the inner 50, it's 2-to-1 or 6 shrubs. And if you're actually in a resource area, such as BVW or something, it's 3-to-1. Anybody have concerns with that? No.
Beth, could I make a comment just about why I did this?
Sure.
Why we wrote it this? Yeah, so this is a change from the previous set of regulations, which had a much more complicated tree replacement chart based on the size of trees. So the idea being the more mature trees, you would have more that you would need to replace. And so it just seemed like that was complicated and not being very useful. So this was an effort to try to simplify it, and it was taken from some other towns that do something similar where the ratios are not based on the size of the tree, but on the closeness to the resource area.
Yeah, I like it.
You could have something that's 95 feet from the resource area, and it doesn't have as much benefit as something that's 10 feet from the resource area.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I like it. it is definitely simplified from the other, what was there before, and that's always helpful. Now we've got replacement trees, same species, unless non-native. 1.5 to 2 inch caliper, that's good.
I did have a little trouble with replacing with the same species. My thought was as a forest matures, the species change over time. And so like I'm thinking along a stream, you know, you might have a bunch of birch you have to take out because the birch fail after a while. So you might not want to put birch back, you know, because of the
Mhm.
transition in the forest. So I had a little trouble with that. And I guess looking into the future, I support the whole native tree thing, but also looking into the future, I don't know, there's going to come a time when we're going to have to extend the meaning of what is native, I think. And I don't know when that happens, but it seems like it isn't that far away.
Yeah, no, those are both good points. Yeah, in terms of the definition of native, that's again above our pay grade, I think a little bit.
Well, it may be, but I think that we, as a conservation commission in Shutesbury, need to have some flexibility around that and not get too knotted up with the term native in all cases
Mhm.
or exact species.
All right, well, yeah, how do other people feel about this requirement of same species? Do we want to, I don't know, expand on the language a little bit there?
I mean, another good example is we've got hemlocks infested with woolly adelgid. So whether you would want to replace a bunch of hemlocks now with hemlocks, you know, I'm not sure that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if we struck the requirement about the same species, I do think it's and maybe we strike the whole thing. Just have it be a tree, because I mean, if we're to me it kind of depends if we're going to allow people to take down non-native or invasive trees, maybe then not putting back invasive trees makes sense. If we really see the invasive trees as valuable that are in need of protection, then I don't see why we want to let them plant them either. Like to me, it seems a bit incongruent.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
okay.
another example might be the chestnut tree. We can't plant the native chestnut anymore because their odds of surviving, well, they may grow for a while and then they have a premature death, but you can put the Chinese hybrid in, and now that's not native, but you have a shot at having a chestnut tree into the future.
99% native.
Well, you know, but you know, language matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, all good. So we could just replacement trees shall be
For me, I'd love to see it be just say shall be not invasive trees, but that's I don't know what the other commissioners think of that, but I'm thinking about autumn olive or other things that are grown wetland areas that can be invasive, bamboo, other stuff that can get away from people
I
that we
like
wouldn't
that.
want to
Yeah,
introduce.
that actually gets more what I think what the concern is.
Right. I think we'd want to facilitate people taking that kind of stuff out and not putting it back, but the rest of it, I wouldn't think we would want to dictate.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that sounds. So what should we say then? We get rid of same species as what was removed. And we need to actually be a little more, I guess, specific as to what we do want to see.
Would we be able to add in something? I mean, certainly it's already written that we could waive the requirement, but could we also add in our participation in approving a species, that it would be a native to Massachusetts species or something approved by the commission?
I like that.
I say Massachusetts does maintain a
list.
Fish and Wildlife do maintain a list of invasive plants.
Yeah. And just like we were talking about, also just trees native to Massachusetts, but then we were kind of saying there's others that may not be on that list that would be acceptable to us, right? So then having a species approved by the Conservation Commission kind of sounds good to me. Okay, great. All right, then this talks about waivers. Oh, good. That was just a typo that I took out there. Okay.
So you may want to look, I'm not sure native is the right word there any longer.
Yeah, I think like with 835 would be definitely a place where I would want to take it out because I'm picturing somebody going into a resource area and taking out a bunch of an invasive plant. And we would certainly want to be involved in that, just because it's invasive. If you're in a resource area, there can be all kinds of other damage to the resource area from pruning and from removing vegetation, even if it's an invasive. So I think we'd want to just still leave that as no vegetation.
Yeah, I can see that. What do you think for the next one, though?
For extensive pruning or removal of vegetation because of an imminent risk to public health and safety, shall be to the greatest extent practical as determined by the commission.
So if you go in and you take out a bunch of knotweed, do you have to put knotweed back?
No. Yes, let's see, how can we write that? For extensive pruning or removal. And then we could say of vegetation because of an imminent risk. In-kind replacement shall be in-kind replacement, we could even put right there, other than invasives.
Yeah.
Beth, could I make a comment?
Sure.
I think you might want to consider adding to your definitions a definition of native. Because you, for example, could have a plant that's native to Virginia, but isn't native to Massachusetts. But maybe will become a native plant in the future because of environmental climate conditions. But I think you need a definition because, you know, you're talking about
Mhm.
invasive versus native, and those are kind of like two different variables. You can have native versus non-native, invasive versus non-invasive. You can have native invasive plants also. There's some native species that are very invasive. So
Yes.
I think you need to define those things.
Yeah, well, and I think in the end, we're going to take out some of the natives here that
Yeah.
Scott has thrown in here. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
you're
think we
right.
talked about taking out native actually, but I do think maybe it's just getting rid of or modifying your in-kind replacement to include species that are not invasive, which are we do. I think the state has a definition in our list.
In-kind replacement other than invasive plants shall be the extreme determined by the commission. How's that? Does that help?
Sure.
Okay. And I will go back through. I'm not sure I get rid of the, like, if I wanted to get rid of this.
I think you can just not accept it or delete.
That's what I,
It's delete native. Down toward the bottom.
whoop. Define native.
Yep.
Format, clearing.
No,
That says define, not delete.
don't listen to me.
I think if I could shrink the words down, the comments are on the right, and then I can go through and do it. But I've got the words are so large I can't see the right hand column. But I'll go back. I will go back and make these changes. Okay. Tree stumps within the inner 50. That's good. Oops. Tree 6 inches or greater. Oh, yeah, I like snags. Snags are good. Here we talk a little bit about native and non-invasive. For all replacement trees and shrubs must be native and non-invasive in Massachusetts and must be the same general category of removed tree or shrub. So again, here we talk about being of the same species. Do we want to change that here too?
Well, I think Miriam's point about native, and I think others have raised the same concern. Maybe it's really the non-invasive piece that and I don't know if we care if it's the same.
I would just sort of add, you have a lot of discretion here and you don't want to be absurd and make people plant knotweed, but you know, the commission has a lot of flexibility built into this. So rather than trying to anticipate every situation, just remember you can grant waivers.
And this language is a little more vague than up above where it said the same species of the tree. This says must be of the same general category of the removed tree or shrub. So I think Jan, you were the one that was concerned about the same species. Is this language okay, or do you feel like it should be changed?
It's a little bit better. I'm still a little concerned with native tripping us up. That's obviously the desired thing, but not necessarily always mandatory. So the must in that sentence is a little strong.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we could use the language that we came up with and just say, you know, what did we say? Trees approved by the commission, non-invasive trees.
Yeah, just put it same thing down there.
Okay.
I mean, it follows the evergreen or deciduous is nice.
Yeah, I think we said placement trees native to Massachusetts or species approved by the Conservation Commission. Do we want to leave the must trees and shrubs? Must be,
You say it must be non-invasive and should be native?
sure. What do we say above, or a species recommended by the Conservation Commission? Or
Approved
approved
by.
by, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ball sizes. $180. And then the plantings need to be successful.
What happens if they're not?
Good question. So not because two full growing seasons. Commission reserves the right to require replanting. So this is what happens. If they don't grow within 2 seasons, commission reserves the right to require replanting.
I hear that. The trouble
Yeah.
in life is I've planted a lot of trees and, some have taken and others refused. And I'll put something back there the next year and same no-go. So maybe,
Well, it says reserves the right to require
Okay.
replanting. So it's sort of like, that's really not a must, you know what I mean?
okay,
So say there is, especially a project where somebody's taking a lot of trees down, a large project where we are requiring a lot of trees to be replanted, and we really want it to work, and we keep an eye on the whole thing. Again, like you're saying, if something just keeps failing and failing, I think this sort of leaves it open enough that we can work with the applicant to try to figure out something.
okay, sure. I
Seems
mean, we
just the
did
way
that at
it's
the
written.
library site, right? We moved some bushes and all was
Yeah.
good again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this language is kind of flexible enough for that.
Okay.
Application for registration part of any of those applications.
One more question on that.
Yep.
So we're doing small project permits. No, we're not doing admin approvals anymore. Someone wants to take a tree like we just did 4 here.
Yeah, it'll be the same thing as the admin. It's just the name got changed with this new version of the regulations, and the small project permits. It's a little bit different. We haven't gotten to that section yet where we're going to review that. But it was previously called the administrative approval.
And that'll be conducted about the same way?
Yeah. Yep. And we'll get to the section too, so we can talk about it. NOI is required for removals in resource areas. small project permit required. So no more than 5 compromised trees located in the or the riverfront, which I think is the way administrative approval is. Yeah, so this is where it does get pretty specific about which kind of application you need to submit based on how many trees you're taking down. So I'm fine with that. All right. And then I put the limited projects in here. That's next. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I think I'll stop sharing. I know Scott especially said he needed to go at 9 because he's got to get up early tomorrow.
I do my beauty sleep.
Need your beauty sleep. Yeah, so I'm assuming everybody else is all right with stopping at this point.
Yeah.
And we'll start up. The next section is going to go pretty fast. The next section is a lot of just the kind of clerical stuff, I guess, administrative stuff. And there's really not as much discussion. So it should go pretty fast. I guess I haven't really thought if we should plan another just regulations meeting. I'll think about that maybe and send you guys an email because we don't have another meeting now until March 13th, a whole month. And that's enough time to maybe have another regulatory meeting and just try to finish it up. So
I would be in favor of that, to try and knock it either down or knock it off, get done with it. I think that would be to our advantage.
yeah, me too. Me
And-
too.
And I think this is the last couple months of the slow time before the real big applications are coming in.
Yep. We actually have a pretty big NOI at our next meeting. I was going to mention it to you guys. It is the DPW working with FERCog. I wanted to say Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, but it's FERCog working with them on their bundled NOI. So they worked with FERCog. I think PVPC is also involved with this, but FERCog has sort of this template NOI for DPW's bundled NOI, and they worked with our DPW and they have submitted it. And they're going to be on our agenda for March 13th. So you guys will be seeing that NOI. So that's kind of a big deal. I'll have to think about how we do site visits for that. That'll be, I haven't looked at the application at all. So yeah, so we're already getting some big ones. That'll be at our next meeting. So it'd be good to finish up the regs. It really would. Mateo, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I don't want to keep you too late, but hopefully all of you saw that the email that went out that we have a deficit of members on the ZBA. And I'm not asking any of you to serve on yet another board, but if you know of anybody in town who has an interest in land use and helping enforce the zoning bylaw, please encourage them to step forward because we're down to 1 member on the ZBA right now.
Whoa, 1 member. How many members are there usually? What is it?
There's
3
supposed
member?
to be three full members and 2 associate members. So we have 1 full member and 1 associate member who does not live in Shutesbury.
Wow. That's too bad. Okay. I'll see if I can convince anyone.
Yeah, compared to the Concom, it's very light lifting. They only meet when an application is submitted, which is pretty infrequently, but we do need people. So
Okay. And I want to thank you, Mateo, for everything that you do. That you're doing it's so helpful, but also that the project that it sounds like Gabe started with all of the documents the historical documents and scanning them and then I guess getting rid of the hard copies of a lot of stuff. That's a huge project, and I'm kind of impressed you guys are doing it.
There's a lot there's a lot to go through. I think some of the other committees and departments are going a lot faster than I am because they're not taking the time necessarily to scan everything, but I'm trying to digitize everything I can.
Yeah, I do think that's important. I was surprised with sort of the state guidance because where I did most of my work with the wetlands documents in Amherst, I mean, we have files going back to the 70s, hard copy files. And nobody would think of getting rid of them. Like, oh no, keep every piece of paper, you know, because you might need it. And so to see the state guidance that basically says you can completely get rid of an entire project once a certificate of compliance is issued, kind of surprised me a little bit. I mean, it's sometimes having that historical information is so helpful. So it's good to know you're scanning things. That's good. I know it's a lot of work, so thank you. All right, if anybody else has no comments, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
Second.
All right, Douglas,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. All right, we'll see you guys in a month, but I'll be sending you stuff.
Great.
Right.
Hope to see you at the MACC too. Take care.
Right.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
guys.